Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News Weekend. It's a historic first for the Canadian Armed Forces as troops test the limits of equipment and personnel in one of the most remote regions on Earth. And as our reporter Charlotte Moore Jacobs explains, it's only the beginning of an expanding interest and support for Arctic sovereignty.
For the first time ever, the M777 howitzer is crossing the 60th parallel. It's going to be used to test the Canadian Armed Forces' land preparedness and capability to detect, deter, and defend in the Arctic.
Overall goal for this is essentially to test our equipment out in the field out here. Coming up north, it's a real stress test on all the equipment, especially the vehicles and the guns themselves, and especially the personnel.
Master Bombardier Jonathan Pache is one of 1,300 people taking part in Operation Nunavik, with various missions across Yukon, NWT, and Nunavik.
There's a whole lot of logistical planning going into this, from the road move coming all the way up here from Edmonton, especially from Shiloh too. We had a lot of packets. We had the Air Force coming out here with their planes and their aircraft to be transporting our vehicles and our howitzers up to Cambridge Bay. So.
While the Arctic makes up 40% of Canada's landmass and 75% of our coastline, communities are sparsely located.
I think a big piece is...
So it's Major Stephanie Smith's job to ensure troops are self-sufficient in Cambridge Bay, Nunavik. Currently, they're surpassing local hospital resources, which lack surgical and ventilator support. But it's the reciprocity that impresses Nunavik allies. How the team is securing clinical licenses for military staff and are able to support the local healthcare facility.
Even speaking with some of the elders as well, like learning their traditional medicine about how you approach a patient that's from the community to develop trust, collaboration, ensuring that they're what works best from their culture that sets them up to feel safe and trust with bringing in Western medicine options.
This building, the Canadian High Arctic Research Station, is home to the temporary strategic hub. Troops leverage the facility's advanced capabilities for northern surveillance and training. The station's lead scientist, David Hick, identifies the need for more multi-purpose infrastructure and hopes the visit strengthens partnerships to make that happen.
I think we could also make better use of those existing infrastructures. The North Warning sites, for example. We already have power and comms at those locations. There's things we could put in situ, within a couple months if using Canadian technology. Ocean Networks Canada, the cables, ROPOS, being able to put, just increase our domain awareness for a whole variety of reasons. We can work with you on that.
Brigadier General Danielle Riviere, commander of Joint Task Force North, says building Canada's defenses includes building infrastructure.
We could be asked to forward deploy people and vehicles and platforms and equipment, so you need that sustainment for endurance. And you can't deplete local resources, so that's one good reason is self-sufficiency. If you have a degree of self-sufficiency, you add so much flexibility in your ability to deploy anywhere across the north. Mindful that some areas are totally remote and with near to no infrastructure.
Joint Task Force North is receiving significant long-term funding, $2.67 billion to be exact, over 20 years, to establish and upgrade northern operational support hubs in Yellowknife, Nunavik, and Iqaluit. Op Nunavik is also growing a persistent and expanding presence, including the longest patrol conducted by the Canadian Rangers ever, 4,500 kilometers by snowmobile from Yukon to Manitoba. For Lieutenant General Stephen Boivin, commander of the Canadian Joint Operations, it's exciting times, as Canada and its allies are watching the North and its capabilities.
So why fire today the M777? This is a rehearsal. This is a demonstration for us of the Canadian Armed Forces capabilities as we look at detecting, deterring threats, and if required, defending the country.
Charlotte Moore Jacobs, APTN National News, Cambridge Bay, Nunavik.
A family from Inukjuak, a remote community in northern Quebec, has been in Montreal for several months so their son Bobby can receive medical care. Stephanie Dusev tells us more about the difficult decision Bobby's mother must make.
In the near future, the only way 14-year-old Bobby will be able to stay in touch with his family in the north is through his iPad. He will soon be discharged from a Montreal hospital, but may not be able to go back home to Inukjuak in northern Quebec. He might be placed in a permanent facility for disabled kids in Montreal, far from familiar places. Right now, Bobby is here with his Anana, Lily, his adopted mother, and his sister Jennifer. Bobby has a genetic disease called P5CS deficiency. It causes growth and developmental delays as well as eye problems. His biological younger sister has the same rare disease. Sign language is how he communicates. By bringing his fingers together, Bobby says again. Despite his condition, Bobby has a strong personality.
He watches airplane. He loves airplanes. He loves wheels, big trucks, and sunanlo, hanoklo.
And he has a lot of energy, I hear.
He has a lot of energy. He would go everywhere.
He has been under medical supervision since he was 6 weeks old. He is used to traveling from his community to Montreal for medical appointments and treatments.
Bobby, Anana.
Back in November, they traveled from Inukjuak for a routine checkup, but had to stay to treat Bobby because he had blood in his vomit and feces. His Anana had sought medical advice more than once over the years, but had been told that everything was fine.
But then I thought it was normal. I thought it was okay. But then when he was born, he used to get sick easily.
However, Bobby had to be put to sleep and a small camera was used to check his esophagus.
He had an internal bleeding inside. Esophagus was infected. Yes.
All the way up to his stomach, actually.
Yeah.
The medical team tried unsuccessfully to administer his antibiotic in his milk, through an IV, and then through a tube in his mouth.
He gagged and the tube went off from the mouth.
The medical team then suggested a small incision be made to connect a tube directly into his stomach. It is used to hydrate, nourish, and administer medication. His Anana was hesitant at first. She finally agreed because she was promised the procedure would be temporary. According to his Anana, the medical team went back on their promise, and he will have to keep the tube permanently. This added task weighs on the decision this stay-at-home mom has to make. Will she bring Bobby back home, or will he be placed permanently in a facility for the disabled in Montreal? Because Bobby will soon be discharged from the hospital.
I can't bring him home because of the tube leg. I'm planning
Jennifer shares what would be the best scenario for Bobby.
We preferred that he is closer to home, like that is connected to the culture, to the land, to
So I can visit directly to him, so I can see him every day if they took my boy.
But there are no facilities for disabled kids in Inukjuak, nor in other remote northern Quebec communities. In 2025, Anana advocated for such a facility at the Makivik Annual General Meeting. Something came out of her testimony. They are not building a home, but the Lily Fund was created last year.
I asked her already, so are they going to build a house for handicap? And she said, no, not the one. You've been accepted for trust fund.
The fund provides monthly financial assistance to parents of children with disabilities. Anana says she is happy the fund provides some assistance, but it does not solve her situation, where Bobby may be in a Montreal facility permanently. That's because Bobby is not easy to handle.
He got traumatized by so many different doctors. So when a new face shows up, going to be in a protective mode.
Also, Anana has a hard time giving Bobby a bath by herself. He has become too heavy. She believes that 2 people are needed to control and care for him.
Even though if I go through FM, Facebook, PLA, social workers, they posted nobody's interested. There's no one. You never know, dear.
It's a familiar song, one she's been singing to Bobby since he was a baby. As a mother and an activist, Anana has not sung her last note yet. Stéphane Desèvres, APTN News, Montreal.
A safe place for those in recovery is providing a late night option for those looking to socialize in Thunder Bay. That story and more after the break. Welcome back. A recovering addict in Thunder Bay is hoping his business will help others to conquer their addictions. Howl at the Moon is a non-alcohol bar which serves a late-night option for those looking to socialize in a sober setting. Now in its 3rd year in business, the venue continues to be a safe place for those in recovery and a place where those struggling with addiction can seek help. APTN's Mike McDonald reports.
Jody Luz started Howl at the Moon with a clear goal: to give recovering addicts a safe place to relax and be themselves.
There's plenty of things available as far as like meetings, institutional type events for people in recovery. But up until Howl at the Moon opened, there wasn't really just sort of a social, sober hotspot where they could just come together and be themselves and meet other people. You know, it's really important in recovery to be around people who are also in recovery. We need to be social, and building that social network is really, really important. I've seen it over and over again where people end up relapsing because they get lonely and they end up back in the trap houses and back in the bars because they miss being around people.
Luz spent years working in bars, witnessing the impacts of addiction, and is a recovering addict himself. Although he's not Indigenous, Luz says he recognizes the unique needs of Indigenous people in recovery, which influences the programming offered at Howl at the Moon.
It became pretty obvious to me that reconnecting with culture and language was a really important factor in healing for my Anishinaabe brothers and sisters, and that's why we try and incorporate things like sharing circles and drum socials here at Howl at the Moon, in addition to the live entertainment programming that we have.
One of Jody's helpers is Michael Ashni-Peniscum, who started out as a customer. He brings with him years of struggle.
I grew up in a big treatment center called Bayfield Homes. I was there for 7 years, and I got out when I was 17, and then came back up here and lived here since 2012.
You know, I met Michael about 2 years ago when he came in here, and he was a pretty shy, reserved young man, and you know, I've just seen so much growth in the 2 years that I've known Michael. He was nervous to even get up there and sing karaoke, and now I can't get him off the stage, and he actually hosts karaoke here 3 times a week at Howl at the Moon, and I'm just so proud of him because I've seen him come out of his shell, and I think Howl at the Moon has really helped him to do that.
Ashni-Peniscum says Howl at the Moon saved his life, adding it has given him a sense of purpose.
I'd be out there drinking right now and doing other stuff, you know, like I remember before I came here, I was like going to the Royalton and going for drinks and stuff and smoking up, and now I'm here. I really like helping Jody out, you know, like I really like relieving the tension and off of Jody, and contributing in the community.
Mike McDonald, APTN National News, Thunder Bay.
A new report from the Office of the Auditor General of Canada is highlighting serious gaps across the Yukon's Department of Family and Children's Services. The report found failures ranging from responding to reports of suspected harm to completing investigations and following up with children in care and young adults receiving support services. Sarah Connors tells us more.
The Deputy Auditor General of Canada got straight to the point at a press conference in Whitehorse Wednesday. The Yukon is falling short in protecting the safety and well-being of vulnerable children and families.
These findings and the underlying gaps in governance and oversight reveal a child and family services system that is not effectively protecting the young people who depend on it the most.
The new report on the territory's Family and Children's Services Department found serious gaps in child protection services.
Yukon's Department of Health and Social Services must act urgently to strengthen its child protection services to support the well-being of children, youth, and their families.
Among its findings, the department failed to assess the need for protective intervention within the mandated 24-hour window in 37% of child harm allegations. It did not meet the requirement to have face-to-face contact at least once a month with children in care in 74 of the cases examined, and it failed to complete cultural plans for about 90% of Indigenous children in care.
So unfortunately, the Auditor General's report was nothing surprising.
The Council of Yukon First Nations says the findings echo issues it's been raising for years. Its executive director says about 98% of kids in care in the territory are Indigenous, and that First Nations must play a greater role in fixing the system.
It's really important that Yukon First Nations are collaborative decision makers in everything from the legislative and policy framework to actually delivering of the supports and services.
The report's recommendations include improving compliance monitoring, reviewing staffing levels, and collaborating with Indigenous partners to complete cultural plans for Indigenous children in care.
Our hope is that the outcomes will improve for these children and families.
The Yukon government has accepted the report's recommendations. Health and Social Services Minister Brad Cather says the government is taking the report's findings seriously and work is already underway to improve the system. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
Thanks, Sarah. Miss Indigenous Canada has a new collaboration that is also helping out a good cause. That story and more after the break. Welcome back. Drew Hayden Taylor's new play premiered on a Winnipeg stage recently. Well-known theater artist Tracy Niepenak is directing the production, and she spoke with Julia Ross about the show.
And do you have a favorite line or favorite memory so far?
I can't say it on TV.
Tracy Niepenak is the director of Drew Hayden Taylor's new play, The Undeniable Accusations of Red Cadmium Light. Niepenak says the story follows an art expert that lives on reserve specializing in Norval-Morrisseau frauds, and when she is interviewed by a reporter from the big city, the interview uncovers things that directly affect her, her daughter, and the world as they know it.
I feel so blessed and so privileged to be able to crack this, you know, like the world premiere of Drew's play. I'm so happy to be able to explore this with the group that I have here.
Niepenak says that her mom met Norval-Morrisseau at a low period in his life, but that Morrisseau remained himself.
He was so down to earth and so humble. And then these stories about fake Morrisseaus, how big time gallery owners and all manner of people took advantage of his art, his gift. And yet he could care less about the money. It was just something that he did.
She says she is excited for audience members to see the world of Morrisseau and Indigenous art.
He wanted the people that he knew that were close to him to benefit as well, because he had so much fame, and so he just wanted to share his gift. And that turned into people taking advantage of him. So yeah, I just want to see, there's so many levels in this play, and that's just one of them, but how much relationships and family and what it takes to keep that family bond.
Niebenek has acted in Drew Hayden Taylor shows before, and when reading the new script, she was so excited she couldn't say no to directing. The Undeniable Accusations of Red Cadmium Light runs at the Prairie Theatre Exchange in Winnipeg until March 8th. APTN spoke with Drew earlier this week. You can find his interview on our YouTube. Julia Ross, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Bummed out I'm going to miss that one. Miss Indigenous Canada, Gina Boubard, took on a collaboration with Marshall Fabrics to create ribbon skirt kits. Part of the proceeds from the kits are being donated to a not-for-profit organization in Winnipeg. Here again is Julia Ross.
Marshall Fabrics has partnered with Gina Boubard, the 2025 Miss Indigenous Canada, to create 2 styles of ribbon skirt kits. Boubard says that while designing the kits, the colors chosen during the process had important meanings to them.
It was hard to narrow it down to 2 fabrics, but I chose the pink because it's kind of been my go-to color since I've won Miss Indigenous Canada. And then I chose the orange skirt to represent my family, my parents. My dad is a residential school survivor and my mom is a day school survivor. So that orange really represents healing as well as the Every Child Matters movement.
The kits feature fabrics designed by Anishinaabe artists Jackie Travers and Shannon Gustafson. Store manager Aaron Kemble says it was a great opportunity to work with Boubard and to give back to community.
Gina chose the fabrics, which was really quite a nice process, and she chose 2 Indigenous designers that we carry here in the store.
Boubard says that the kits are for Indigenous people of all ages and genders to express themselves and hopes youth show interest.
Even though the kits have the fabric and the ribbons, I'm really hoping to see some creativity and maybe some added aspects to the skirts, and to just proud of who you are and when you're wearing the skirt.
A skirt sewn by Olga Roskoff from Clanware Creations from one of the kits is on raffle with proceeds donated to Sunshine House.
Well, Sunshine House is a 2S LGBTQ+ and BIPOC-led harm reduction community resource center. We run a variety of programs from our drop-in on Logan Avenue, where we provide hot meals, clothing donations, and harm reduction supplies, and a host of other services. We also do housing for people experiencing houselessness, exclusively for the 2S LGBTQ+ community.
Michaela Chotka, Fundraising and Community Relations Manager for Sunshine House, says the collaboration is a good fit with their programming.
We are, community-based with a focus on harm reduction, and we're just very grateful and humbled that, Marshall's Fabrics and Miss Indigenous Canada, Gina Boubard, have, come together to provide, a fundraiser that's both, culturally appropriate for us as well as, appropriate to the communities we serve.
Boubard says that giving back through ribbon skirts is special as it marks a cultural aspect for them. The kits cost around $60 each. They will be available across Marshall Fabric stores in Winnipeg, Calgary, Edmonton, and Lethbridge. Julia Ross, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Good stuff. That's all the time we have for your APTN National News for this weekend. You can visit our website, aptnnews.ca, to stay up to date with the very latest. I'm Dennis Ward, Marcy Miigwech. Thanks for being with us. APTN Investigates is up next. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.